Mercedes is about to drop the facelifted version of the S-Class, and I think this is a pretty redundant update, to be honest, because we saw the concept that they just dropped a couple of months back, I think. How good that looks, and if we just took that design and made a completely new S-Class out of that design, I would be very happy because I think it looks absolutely stunning, and the big grille in the front end of that concept suits an S-Class way better than it did on the GLC, where it looks a little out of place, but it definitely looks better on the S-Class. So we're going to have a look at this article from Car Scoops, see what the updates are. I also want to go into Photoshop here, have a look at the current S-Class, what it looks like. I think it came out in 2021. The spy photos right here, the renderings from, of course, Kelsonic. I'm going to link his Instagram down below, and both of these renderings are from him. But this big grille, some might say that it's way too big, but honestly, I think it looks like old school Mercedes from maybe the 30s or the 40s or something like that. And the rear end of this new one looks great as well. That's the reason why I think this facelift, I prefer the non-facelifted version over the facelift one. And I'm going to let you know why in this video, and also go into detail why I think they should just skip this facelift altogether and focus on building the new one in the style of this concept down here. Before we jump in Photoshop though, let's check this Car Scoops article out. So 2027 Mercedes S-Class hides its biggest change in plain sight. You got, of course, the star-shaped running lights come into the S-Class now, and we see that across the entire lineup. The new C-Class probably going to have that. The facelifted one, the E-Class has a GLC as well. The GLE will probably have that as well, I'm pretty sure. So, of course, you're going to put it into the S-Class as well. The problem I have with this is, let's just talk about that when we go into Photoshop. It's easier to show you. So, that's going to define the front end of the S-Class. You also looks like you have a bigger framing for the grille, and that the grille size might even grow in general for this facelift. I think it's going to be a pretty substantial facelift in the front. In the rear, they're also going to drop the star-shaped LEDs. I don't know about these. Do you think it looks good to have the stars inside the headlight unit? Let me know in the comments below. I don't know if people like it or not, to be honest. So the biggest change on the interior is going to happen with the big hyper screen from the EQS, and that is a big mistake, I think. I think you know that already. Hyper screens like this, 3-in-1 under one big glass panel, it just does not look luxurious one bit. But that is what we get for this 2026 S-Class. So you have the new star-shaped lights and revised grille. Powertrains are likely to be the same like we have right now, which is totally fine. So it's technically just a facelift. It promises some genuine, meaningful updates. The refreshed model pairs new front and rear designs with a thoroughly revised interior, newly designed headlights, each unit featuring 2 star-shaped daytime run lights, clusters. We can see it here in the photos. For the rear end, we do have the star patterns in the taillights as well. And I don't think they're going to change the outer shape of the taillight unit, because that is going to be too expensive for just a facelift. It still looks pretty good. I mean, the side view looks proper. Have this smooth design now. I went away from the more boxy design of previous generations. In my opinion, the previous generation before this one was an absolute beauty when it comes to, you know, it had more of a, it felt more like a bossy Mercedes with thicker graphics and the bigger taillights that are almost a square shape, and the front end had taller headlights as well. It was a fantastic looking S-Class. And that, if I were to buy an S-Class today, I would go with the previous generation for sure over this one. I think this one looks a little bit too weak graphically compared to the old one. So the overall shape of the lights also appears slightly different. Interesting, they might actually change the outside of the lights themselves. I'm not entirely sure. Although the grille is still concealed, it seems marginally larger than the current one, with the recent patent leaks suggesting a new design loosely echoes the Vision iconic concept, and that is the concept that I want them to build the new S-Class on, and I do think they're actually going to do that, and I'm honestly very excited for that. I think it's going to be one heck of a good-looking S-Class the next generation. You got new taillights, revised LED signatures, talked about that already. So here's the interior. We have the big hyper screen now, but thankfully we still have our physical buttons for the start button, and I like that Mercedes puts the automatic shut-off at red light button right underneath the start button. So when I start a Mercedes, I do this, bam, bam. So I just turn off that instantly as soon as I start the car. So basic hyperscreen as in the all-electric EQS, which includes cluster, infotainment screen, and also a passenger display under this massive piece of glass. From a luxury standpoint, what I want to see, I've said it so many times before, but luxury to me is just quality materials, different type of textures, different types of smells even for a car interior. And this is just a big piece of glass. There's no personality to interiors like this, and specifically not in an S-Class. So one notable difference between the EQS and the S-Class is that we do now have still a physical engine start button at the dash. A new steering wheel as well. This does not look like a new steering wheel to me. This looks like the regular Mercedes steering wheel that we have right now with this three spoke, which I'm not a fan of. I definitely prefer the AMG steering wheel over this one, because this one has too much gloss black in the third spoke in the lower section. But it says now including a physical rocker switch for a volume for the volume controls. It's available most likely with the same powertrains as we have right now, and these include a turbocharged 3-liter inline 6, 442 horsepower, which to me sounds like plenty, as well as a plug-in hybrid with the same engine, and the 28.6 kilowatt-hour battery pack bumps it up to 503 horsepower. That is essentially the base model, and you have 503 horsepower in the base model, and then you have the 4-liter twin-turbo V8, 496 horsepower. And of course, you have the beast, that is the S63E Performance, 791 horsepower in that one. That's gonna burn some rubber, that thing. Hybrid V8 setup. It's still a very beautiful and elegant looking exterior design. I've always been a fan of the S-Class. I don't think there is one generation of the S-Class that I'm not a fan of, the W140 being my favorite. Bruno Sacco design, of course. But let's jump in Photoshop here and have a look at the changes and what we can make out from the spy photos for this new S-Class. I do think the current one, the regular one, the pre-facelift, it's a pretty handsome fella, this thing. We have a nice, beautiful shoulder line stretching across the entire length of the vehicle, and also this beautiful line in the lower section creating some nice, beautiful line flow. And of course, this one, Mercedes' current design language, is pretty smooth. They used to be boxy going back to the Sacco era, but after Sacco, they went into a much more smoothly defined and rounded surfaces, which I think looks pretty good, to be honest. I also like the headlight designs here, but as I said, the previous generation before this had headlights that and taillights that looked more beefier. They were just bigger and had more of a presence in the front end. And these thin graphics that we have for the current S-Class still look good, but it doesn't have the same presence at all as the previous generation, in my opinion. We have a nice opening in the lower section as well. So looking at the spy photos and the renderings from Kelsonic here, they say that they might actually change the outside or the headlight unit itself. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to keep the same fender design, the same hood design, bumper design to be able to fit this new one here, because I don't think they want to spend that much money redesigning bumpers and fenders and hoods just for a facelift. We see the star pattern in here, of course, 2 stars like this, main headlight unit sitting right here. And you can see that it looks like we have a much thicker framing for the grille, both in the top section up here and also around the grille itself. It might actually look very cool when it's unveiled. We have the same sort of intakes in the lower section right here. Beautiful looking wheels. I do like the design of these wheels. They look pretty good to me, but I definitely prefer these ones in the renderings in this case. Now, looking at the renderings here, this is a very early rendering from Kelsonic. We don't have the framing or the big framing for the grille in this case, which I do think is going to happen with the facelift unit. But you can see that we do have the star patterns right here. And looking at this facelift, compare this to the original S-Class from today. I still prefer the original one. The reason being, the internal pieces of the headlights are actually following the framing or the outline, the housing for the headlights unit in a much more beautiful way. When we have these stars in here, they just sit randomly inside of this shape and does not follow anything that goes on for the housing of the headlight unit itself. And that is one detail I always want to see in headlights, because the headlights are so important for the identity, personality of the vehicle, that I want to see some sort of connection between the housing of the headlight unit and the internal pieces following the same lines. And that is what we had with this LED that we had in the current generation, following the outline with this LED up top. We do have the typical Mercedes intakes in the lower section here as well, modernized. Now, this is, of course, what I want the new S-Class to look like. This looks like a beast of an S-Class, even though we still have the very thin headlight units here. But you can see that this line up top, again, follows the outline of the key graphics. It's thin. We have a massive grille in the front end, which I actually think looks very, very suitable for this car. Looking at everything else in this vehicle, there is nothing going on that has such a strong graphic presence as a grille in the front. And the Mercedes grille has always been a symbol of luxury, status when you have this Mercedes grille in the front end. So I do like that they emphasizes this much for the S-Class, and also this Vision iconic concept, which Kelsonic here took and turned it into a four-door sedan. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. Do not switch out these wheels. Multi-spoke wheels like this in silver brings out the elegance, the luxury that I want to see in cars like this. Now, looking at the rear end, same thing here. I definitely prefer this one, because now we're going to get the star patterns in the taillight unit. When this first came out, the problem I had with these taillights, specifically compared to the previous one, is, again, they look way weaker than the previous one. They don't have any sort of dynamic movement to it. The reason being, if we put a line right here, you can see that this line right here almost is the exact same line and angle and length as we have on the other side. This creates neither a pull to this side or this side. It just sits right there, balanced. And I don't want to have balanced graphics in the taillights of the front end. I want to have a pull in some direction. Now, of course, it depends on what angle you're looking at this from, but this being the three-quarter rear view, which is a pretty important angle, it still looks too static. So what I wanted to do is just move this corner outwards, potentially, just to have it be a little bit more dynamic, something like this, to create some more movement in it. Well, that was just a small detail. I do believe I made a redesign of this back in 2021 when this first came out. I do like the bumper design and the exhaust tips in the lower section being visible, looking beautiful, and also the internal pieces of the taillight of the current S-Class. It looks very, very good. Some of my favorite wheels from Mercedes are these ones right here. I think they're stunning. Now, looking at the facelifted with the spy photos, you can see that the overall shape of the body is still the same. We still have the beautiful shoulder line and this line in the lower section. We still have, thankfully, visible exhaust pipes in the lower section. Great to see it. Love it. But the taillight units are going to be different, because now we have these star patterns, which I don't think, again, follows the outline of the framing for the taillight, and looks out of place in general. Here you can see the renderings. It looks like we have two here. Not sure if it's hiding a third star in that area like we have on the rendering right here. But I think maybe the star pattern in this case suits the rear end a little bit better than they do in the front end. I'm not entirely sure why, because they still don't follow. Look at all this empty space right here. What are we going to do with it? Why does this exist if we're not going to fill it out with some key graphics features? It doesn't make sense to me. So looking at the S-Class, again, from the Vision iconic concept in the rear end, beautiful, absolutely stunning. I love this, and I don't want to change a single thing from this rendering for the next generation S-Class. Here you can see, again, very slim, beautiful looking taillights. We have almost an AMG GT style where they connect in the middle, but thankfully there is no light bar in this case. But they do have some dynamic pull, because it goes into a little bit of a thicker piece here, thinner in the middle, and clearly defined bumper as well. I want to see the exhaust pipes, though. That's probably the only thing that I will want to change here. Just bring out the exhaust pipe, something like that, to make it a little bit more sporty. But other than that, it's a stunning, stunning design. And this would be, I would say this would probably one of the best looking S-Classes if Mercedes decides to go in the route, in the style of the Vision iconic concept that they had showed just a couple of months ago.